On earlier two occasions, we have discussed Kautilya's Arthashastra from two perspectives. The first one is with respect to his Dandaniti, and the second one is with respect to the Saptanga theory of the state. While discussing the Saptanga theory, we have mentioned that the last Prakritis or Anganas were the Durga, the Kosha, Danda, and the Mitra. Now, Durga, Kosha, and Danda were necessary for the kingdom to sustain the internal security and defense of the state. The last Prakriti or Anga, the Mitra, is necessary for maintaining a good foreign relations with other countries. In fact, Kautilya devoted a lot of space in his Arthashastra on this foreign relations. Now, as we know, Kautilya was in favor of an expansionist kingdom. He wanted that whoever the king may be should engage himself or should start an expedition in proper situation, in proper connections with other countries so that he could expand his kingdom and he could conquer the neighboring countries. In modern day and the modern eye perhaps finds it a bit hawkish. The foreign relations that Kautilya developed was only for conquering the other states. It was for expansion. Today we talk about peace, we talk about restoration of territory and so on. But at the same time, it must be mentioned that the time when Kautilya was writing his treatise, the situation and the political scenario was totally different. At that time, it was the Vijigishu or a conqueror or a ruler desirous to be a conqueror, that was his aim. How to expand his kingdom was his motto, and how to develop an empire was his ultimate vision. So there is nothing wrong, so to say, in what he developed in Arthashastra if we consider him in a proper time and space perspective. Although today's world, today's reading might find it a bit expansionist and hawkish. Now, regarding the foreign relations, there are two important aspects that Kautilya talked about. One is the Sadgunya and the other is the Rajamandala theory. Now, the Sadgunya are the 6 measures that Kautilya talked about. What are these 6 measures? These 6 measures are Sandhi, Vigraha, Asana, Yana, Sansraya and Dwadhibhava. Now these 6 measures were to be adopted by the Swami or a kingdom in particular situations, and that had also been mentioned by Kautilya. The Sandhi is the policy of friendship, and this is to be undertaken by the Swami or the ruler when he finds himself to be weaker than his enemy. At that point of time, at that situation, that king should engage or should undertake a sandhi with his enemy. The second one, that is Vigraha, is the policy of hostility. Here, the Swami or the king should undertake this policy when he finds himself to be stronger than his enemy, when he understands that he could conquer the enemy's kingdom, he should undertake or he should follow the policy of hostility or Vigraha. The third one is the Asana. Now this is the policy of remaining quiet. When the Swami or the king realizes that his power and the power of his enemy of the neighboring state are almost on an equal footing, he should not undertake either Sandhi or Vigraha. On the other hand, or on the contrary, he should undertake the policy of remaining quiet or Asana. The fourth one is the policy of Yana, when one is very strong, he should start an expedition and he should try to conquer one after another territory or principality, and in that manner try to expand his kingdom as much as he can. So this is a continuous policy of hostility, we may say, when our Swami finds himself to be extremely powerful or extremely strong enough to undertake several expeditions against weaker kingdoms. The fifth one is the policy of Sansraya. Now this should be followed by a king who is extremely weak. He should in that situation take refuge in the fortified capital or in the Durga of the other kingdom, so that he could remain in some kind of captivity, and he should try to make plans from that situation so that he could undertake a policy of expedition later on if the situation becomes favorable to him. And finally is the policy of Dwadhibhava. This should be followed in a very shrewd manner, in a very diplomatic manner by a king. This means a policy of Sandhi with one king, and at the same time the policy of hostility with another king. So two kinds of policies to be undertaken by the ruler or by a king at the same time, and that is why it is called the policy of Dwadhibhava. Now these Sadgunyas have been mentioned by Kautilya to be undertaken by the Swami in proper time and proper perspective, but the ultimate aim always remains to be expansion of his kingdom. Now in the discourse on foreign policy, apart from the Sadgunya, the other important theory is the Rajamandala theory. Now this Sadgunya presupposes the Rajamandala theory, but at the same time it is not necessary to have a Rajamandala in order to conduct the Sadgunyas. The Rajamandala actually visualizes 12 probable relationships. It is not necessary to have these 12 relationships at the same time, at the same place. But this is an ideal situation, an ideal kind of mandala theory where the Vijigishu or the conqueror should undertake or should conduct his foreign policy in that manner. This Rajamandala theory have 12 states in its mind. The first one is obviously the Vijigishu. And from his perspective, all the 11 states have been mentioned. The second one is Ori, that is the enemy of the Vijigishu. The third one is Mitra, that is the ally of Vijigishu. Incidentally, the territory of Ori lies contiguous to the territory of Vijigishu. Similarly, the territory of Mitra lies contiguous to the territory of Ori. The fourth state is the state of Ari-Mitra, that is the ally of the enemy, whose territory lies contiguous to the territory of Mitra. The fifth state is the territory of M8-Mitra, that is the ally of Vijigishu, whose territory lies contiguous to Ari-Mitra. And the sixth territory is that of Ari-Mitra-Mitra, that is ally of the enemy of the Vijigishu, whose territory lies in contiguity to M8-Mitra. Now these are the 6 states in the forward direction, that is the 5 states apart from Vijigishu have been mentioned in a forward direction. Similarly, we find similar states in the rear direction too. For instance, the territory of Parsanigraha is the enemy of the Vijigishu in the rear front, whose territory again lies in contiguous to Vijigishu. Next to Parsanigraha is the territory of Akranda, who is the ally of Vijigishu in the rear, whose territory lies contiguous to Parsanigraha. Next to Akranda is the territory of Parsanigrahasara, who is the ally of Parsanigraha, that is, who is the ally of Vijigishu's enemy and whose territory lies contiguous to Akranda. And next comes the territory of Arkandasara, who is in fact the ally of Akranda and whose territory lies contiguous to Parsanigrahasara. So these are the states in the rear direction. Apart from these, Kautilya mentioned two other territories, and in fact all these constitute the Rajamandala theory of 12 territories, and the final two territories are the territory of Madhyama and the territory of Udasina. Madhyama means the territory whose boundaries lie in contiguity to the Vijigishu's territory, but who is powerful than both Vijigishu and Ori. And finally comes the territory of Udasin, which literally means the territory of the indifferent ruler, who in fact more or less lies outside this Rajamandala concept in the sense that he is more powerful than Vijigishu, Ori and Madhyama. Now this is the Rajamandala theory in full, and as has been noticed that the direction is not sacrosanct. That is, when the Vijigishu started his expedition in the forward direction, then the relationship is like what I have just now mentioned. But if the Vijigishu started his direction in the rear direction, then the Parsanigraha becomes the Ori and so on. It is just a conceivable kind of relationship where 12 states might exist and that could constitute a clear mandala or what we call Rajamandala from Kautilya's Arthashastra. Another point is to be mentioned here that there may be situations when all these 12 states did not exist. That is, when the Vijigishu wanted to start an expedition, he did not find all these territories. In that situation, he should conduct his expedition in a proper manner suited to that particular situation. Now, an important point may be mentioned here that, as I have repeatedly mentioned, that Kautilya's foreign policy is one of expansionist policy, one of a kind of hawkish policy. Kautilya did not think or did not believe in the motto that prepare for war and hope for peace. On the contrary, Kautilya believed in the motto prepare for war and go for conquering. So, Kautilya's this Rajamandala is a concept where the Vijigishu could conduct his expedition in a manner that could expand his kingdom and could make him the Swami of this entire Rajamandala. Now, Kautilya said that when a proper Rajamandala exists, the king should first try to conquer the Ori, thereafter the Madhyama, and finally the Udasin, so that he could become the master of the entire territory. But when the proper Rajamandala does not exist, that is, the king finds other territories not in the manner that has been mentioned in the Rajamandala, he could go on to subdue the Ori first and thereafter go on even conquering the Mitra, so that all the other territories gradually one after another come to his subjugation. Now, two other aspects are also related with the foreign policy of Kautilya. One is the issue of diplomacy, and the other is the issue of Doota. Now, diplomacy, Kautilya has mentioned, but again, it is the aim of Kautilya to utilize diplomacy too, not for ending war or not for some kind of a reconciliation, but again for a kind of expansionist policy. Through diplomacy, Kautilya wanted to his Vijigishu to conquer territories one after another. Other aspect that Kautilya talked about is Doota. Now, Doota plays a very important role in the foreign relations of Kautilya. In fact, when he talked about the internal defense and security of the state, there also Kautilya talked about the Doota. In fact, Kautilya was perhaps the first one to talk about in a totally uninhibited manner about how the system of spying could be utilized by the Swami for his expansion, for his benefit. Some of the policies, in fact, that Kautilya mentioned that the Doota should apply or should follow are totally prohibited in today's world. We do not think of those things in the modern world. But again, those were the things that were prescribed by Kautilya during 4th century BC, when a kind of statehood was gradually evolving, and for maintenance of that state, perhaps Kautilya talked these things. Regarding the Doota, Kautilya said that there could be 3 kinds of Dootas the king could employ. One is who could engage into discussion with the ruler of the neighboring country. One who has been given enough freedom to talk on behalf of his ruler, to engage into different kinds of treaties or different kinds of policies that were necessary. So this was a kind of free, flexible Doota or envoy, which we find to an extent in modern days. The second one is the Doota who was given a limited kind of freedom. That is, he could to a certain extent negotiate with the ruler or the Yuvaraja of the neighboring country, but after that he had to report to his king or to his Swami for further discussion and for further negotiation. And finally, the Doota, who is just a messenger of information and news, that he has been entrusted to give a certain kind of message to the ruler of the neighboring country, and his duty is only that, to convey that message. He could not do anything else. Now, with these 3 kinds of Dootas, it becomes quite clear that the first 2 kinds, and particularly the first kind of Doota, plays an important part in developing the foreign relations of the state or the foreign relations of the Swami or the Vijigishu. It is upon the information, upon the counseling, and upon the advice of the Doota regarding the nature of existence of the adjoining states that the king could undertake his expeditions. Although it is true that the king relied not just upon the Dootas, on the basis of the information and advices of the Dootas, the king consulted the mantris, and on the basis of the availability and the preparedness of the danda, that is the army, the king could undertake expeditions. Now, regarding expeditions, Kautilya talked about 3 kinds of expeditions. One is an expedition which is of longer duration, and Kautilya said that the Vijigishu should undertake that kind of expedition in the month of Magha, that is during winter times. He could plan to make a longer kind of expedition. During the month of Chaitra, if the Vijigishu wanted to start an expedition, it should be of medium duration. And finally, in Jyeshtha, if the Vijigishu wanted to start an expedition, that should be of a very shorter duration, because we know that after that the monsoon begins and it would be difficult for the Vijigishu to go in for a successful expedition during that time. So, when Kautilya was talking about the months, he meant the weather conditions. So, weather conditions, the preparedness of the danda, the sustenance of the kosha, the skill and the ability of the armed personnel, all these determine when the Vijigishu should start an expedition. Now, regarding the danda, it consisted of 4 kinds of army. One is the chariots, the elephants, the cavalry, and the infantry. Now, these 4 constituted the danda, which is the armed forces of the Vijigishu according to Kautilya's Arthashastra. Now, these 4 aspects of the danda should be skilled enough, should be trained enough, and should be prepared enough to lend enough support and enough help to the Vijigishu for a successful expedition. Now, Kautilya also categorized the Vijigishus into several types. One is the Dharma Vijayi, that is the Vijigishus who were interested for expedition for their glory, honor, and dignity. They were the Dharma Vijayi. The second one is the Artha Vijayi, that is the Vijigishus who were interested in the wealth of the conquered territories. That is, they wanted to develop, to fill up their koshas with the wealth taken from the conquered territories. And the final kind of Vijigishu that Kautilya talked about is the Ashura Vijayi, that is those who in fact conducted their expedition like a demon. That is, they were interested in looting, in all kinds of suppression, and in all kinds of brutality inflicted upon the conquered territories. Now, Kautilya here was in favor of the first 2 kinds of Vijigishus, that is the Dharma Vijayis and the Artha Vijayis. Kautilya said that in some cases, on some occasions, mere subjugation of the conquered territory and the obligation that the rulers of the conquered territories paid to the Vijigishu are enough for the ruler, and there ended the goal of the expedition of the Vijigishu. Here, it is a case of Dharma Vijayi. That is, the Vijigishu is interested only in his glory, in the fact that he can establish himself as the conqueror of a larger territory. He could subjugate the adjoining territories, and he could become a real emperor. On some occasions, however, the Artha Vijayi, the case of the Artha Vijayi is necessary, where the wealth of the kingdom needs to be magnified. Then the Vijigishu should not only subjugate his conquered territories, but also try to bring a good amount of wealth from that territory in order to economically sustain his kingdom and to make it a more developed one. So this in nutshell is the foreign relations that Kautilya has talked about, and on all the aspects that we have mentioned, it becomes quite clear that it is a policy for expansion which becomes very clear from the use of the word Vijigishu.